Nah, you go first. Get in already. We got the wheels turning.
Hello, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Nobody's on.
Nobody's on, so we're gonna give people a second to join. How
Well,
does
I
our,
shared with my students.
oh, good. How does our sign look in the back?
It looks great. I love it. I need to invest in stuff like that. I'm just not into this virtual. I don't plan to get used to virtual life.
You
'Cause
don't.
I love physical. I love to hug.
Well, girl, me
You can
too.
get virtual hugs. You can like.
Not the
Oh,
same.
come on. No, it's not the same.
It's not the same.
It is if you close your eyes really tight. Just imagine it on getting up in there, hug my neck.
Nope, not the same. I miss seeing my folks. We were supposed to be in DC in a couple of weeks because, everyone's birthday, except for the little one, is this month. My son's birthday, he turned 20 on the 9th. I have one turning 15 on the 22nd. Anaya's and my birthday is the 27th. And then the little one will be turning 6.
Yes.
Sure.
She had her phone on.
I was sharing the live on my page.
Oh yeah, I've shared with folks. I've shared in all my little niches and nooks and crannies. People say they're coming on, but CP time.
Mm-hmm.
Especially on a Saturday.
Especially on a Saturday.
Yes.
Especially.
Yeah, so my Rainbow's birthday is in September. She's the only one that's not August.
You planned that well, didn't you?
She was the only one that was planned. She was the only one that was planned. I even chose her birthday. So that's how planned she was.
Wow. Really?
Oh, yeah. I went in when I found out I was having my rainbow. I did not play.
That is so, yeah.
I went in and I told the doctor, okay, let's choose the date. When I'm being induced at 37 weeks. I didn't ask, I told.
Okay.
And I was induced. And the best part was my OB was fantastic. And what she did was she walked in, she surprised me, walked in and caught her herself.
Did she have the catcher's mitt?
And that's unheard of.
And what?
Yep. That's unheard of.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, you never see your OB. That your OB is never the one who catches your baby. So I told her the first time I didn't want to see any other doctors, and she took me literally.
That's yeah. Of course, I didn't know because all that. But yeah, that's crazy. That's planning. That's a birth plan. That's a birth plan.
My birth plan was phenomenal.
So let's talk about
way out there. Mm-hmm.
So we're getting ready.
That was way out there.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about that. Hold on a second. We're getting ready to start.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out a shirt. I feel like a old man.
He's acting like an old man right now.
Well, the page.
Let me share some more
notifications. Yeah. He's okay.
I still won't let me share.
I'm going to your page so I can share.
Okay.
Good. I'll get it.
Okay. So we're gonna start. We are here today with Nneka Hall. She is a pregnancy and infant loss advocate and trainer, and also the creator of Quilt, and the acronym is
Quietly United and Lost Together.
And I could not remember that. So Quietly United and Lost Together. So we're gonna pick her brain and talk to her today about how she started in pregnancy and infant loss advocacy and the foundation of Quilt. So welcome, Miss Nneka Hall.
Thank you. I'm sharing everywhere, guys.
Okay. And we're Tomeka and Brandon Isaac, founders of Jace's Journey, nonprofit organization aim to bring awareness around racial discrimination and disparities in maternal and infant health.
Yes.
Yes. So,
Yep, it's Saturday, August 15th, and it's not too bad outside. It looks like it's supposed to rain, but we have a wonderful sunshiny face with us this morning. So hopefully we can spread some cheer and knowledge, information, and just overall education about everything. So what questions would you like to lead in with Nneka? I almost messed that. I almost messed your name up again. You just told me. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm used to it, guys.
we're not going to do that.
So I'm sorry. You're a full spectrum doula, right?
I
Right.
am.
Okay. But your
I'm-
primary emphasis is dealing with infant loss, as it were.
Yes.
Okay.
So tell us about yourself and tell us about your story and how you got here.
Well, I am first and foremost a mom. I'm the mom of 4, 3 who are with me, and 1 who rests in paradise. And my Lily, go. Sorry, I'm doing a live. Simone, come get your sister. Come get your sister. Oh Lord.
You gotta say hi.
Sorry about that.
Let her say hi.
Lee, go. Okay. Anyway, I'll ignore her. That's my youngest, my rainbow. And almost 10 years ago, guys, it's almost been 10 years. August 26th, 2010, I went in to see my OB at 39 weeks, expecting to be told that she would come at any time. I'd done it twice before. I had my older children with me at the time because they wanted to play doctor. They were 10 and 5. Oh Lord. And the doctor was way behind. She said that she had an emergency to deal with, so we were waiting in the waiting room for a while. And when we went back to see her, she was really flustered or what have you. And she said, well, why doesn't, since the children are here to play and we don't have a lot of time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have my nurse take the children back out to the waiting room, and we're going to go ahead and do whatever exams we have to do. So she checked me to see if I had started dilating. And then she took out the Doppler to listen and didn't hear anything. So we took that long stroll down the hallway to the ultrasound room where she was normally it's a technician in the room, right. But when there's an expected fetal demise, a doctor is automatically there instead of the technician as the second voice to confirm. So another OB was in there, and I guess they thought I couldn't hear them. They were standing, and of course the machine wasn't facing me. Mm-hmm. But I heard them say, well, it must have been recent. It looks like it was very recent. While she was here, the baby passed away.
They said that. They said that out loud?
Oh, yeah, to each other under their breaths. I guess they didn't think I could hear them. But, it was, they whispered it to each other. It was a small room, so of course I heard them. Right. And she came over. I said, what did you say? And she said, I'm sorry, there's no heartbeat. Let's go back to my office so you can make some decisions. So we didn't go back into the examination room. We went to her office, and she sat down behind her desk and told me that in these cases, normally people go home and decide what to do. And I said to her, well, I'm not leaving. We're going to have a baby today. We need to have the baby today. Tomorrow's my birthday. We need to have a baby today. So she said, well, why don't you call your husband to see what you guys to get. I said, no, this is my body. It's my choice. I'm not leaving this hospital until I have this baby. What do I look like leaving the hospital? Well, you can go home and make, allow things to happen naturally. So I had to fight for my right to stay there.
Right.
And I refused to leave. I took over that woman's office. She could not get me out of her office. One of the hardest things, I remembered that my children were in the waiting room, and I said, well, I need to tell them. But before I told them, I called my aunt, who was actually in a meeting down the street. And I said, Auntie, the baby passed away. I'm going to be admitted so that I can have her. And I need you to come get the kids and take them home. My then husband was with his mom in New York. So I had to try to track him down to see what was going to happen, to let him know I was going to just, I'm being admitted. I'm going to have the baby. The baby died in utero. But I ended up speaking to my then mother-in-law before speaking to him, and it was a mess, a complete mess. She said, well, you must, we as people don't learn the fundamentals of childbirth. We don't know about our reproductive systems. We don't understand how things work. And she said, well, what did you do? Sleep on your stomach?
Mm.
And just different things. And I said, well, I can't really go into that right now. We need to just, move forward. I'm being admitted, blah, blah, blah. So then I had to tell my children, my son was 10 and my daughter was 5. I had to explain to them, that their sister had passed away. And of course, my 5-year-old is like looking at me strange, because she's like, she's right there, you know. We had a tradition that my oldest started when I was pregnant with my oldest daughter. I only have one boy. So when right before we had my oldest daughter, we went to Build-A-Bear and made a bear with his voice singing to her so that he could give the bear, to his sister when she was born. That was the day that we were supposed to go to Build-A-Bear, and they were supposed to put their voices on a bear for Anaya.
Right.
And of course, we never made it to Build-A-Bear that day. It was surreal. So my children came in, and I told them, and my aunt came and got them and took them home and answered as many of their questions as she could. But my aunt brought them home and left them with my grandmother, and then came back to the hospital so she could be with me while I had my daughter. So that's what, she was born. I begged for a C-section, but as you probably already know, and many of our followers might know, if you're able to deliver vaginally, they will not give you a C-section. The reason I wanted a C-section was, now in hindsight, I'm happy I didn't get a C-section. But at that moment, I wanted for it to be done quickly. I wanted everything to be done over. And I, especially knowing that the next day was my birthday, I did not want to share my birthday. And at that time, that's what I thought with my deceased child,
Right.
So, of course, I was induced, and I had her the next morning, or very early in the morning. And the one thing that really hit me was the fact that the medical team, it was a teaching hospital. And when I pushed her out, not just my birth team was there. The room was filled with students.
Mm-hmm.
And looking back at that moment, I didn't know any of those people except for my immediate team.
Right.
And I was in a very vulnerable place. So I didn't know at that time that I could have said, you know what, you have to go. B, when my daughter was born, it was a regular vaginal delivery, and I couldn't really function. So I didn't know what was going on, but they all started crying, and say, oh my God, she's beautiful. And I can remember saying to them, well, what in the world did you expect? What were you expecting? I mean, seriously, I didn't know what they were expecting because the reaction was so great. And at that point, my nurse finally realized what was going on and told everybody they had to go. Everybody had seen my child except for me. And they rushed her out of the room. They bathed her, they dressed her, they took her weight and everything. And they did it while they were out of the room. And then they brought her back to me fully clothed and swaddled in a crocheted blanket with a matching crocheted hat. And no one told me that I could get to know my daughter. No one told me that I could unswaddle her. I did not see her hands or her feet until someone sent me a photo of her hands and her feet. And that was, that was a lot. It was a lot. And I know I just, it was just one of those things. Yeah. One of those things. And I saw her and I remember shaking her because she just looked like she was a sleeping baby. And I thought, well, maybe they made a mistake.
Maybe
maybe, just maybe, and I know, so she's why I do this work. Her name is Anaya Marie. She would be turning 10 on the 27th. And, I think about everything that was lost, But I look at everything that she's done in her 10 years as a butterfly baby. I mean, I think about all of the babies that have been saved because of my work. All of the people that have been educated because of that work. I've done a lot, because of her. My voice is her voice. I later found out that I had preeclampsia.
Okay.
That was missed. And had she not died when she did, I probably would have died. So I wouldn't be here to tell her story or to live this wonderful life that I'm living now. I can remember thinking that my birthday was a curse for so many years. And now I refer to it as my rebirth because the blinders came off and I saw what was needed.
Right.
And I joined in this battle. I mean, the statistics alone with Black and brown mothers and fathers and babies, I wasn't aware of. Had this not happened, I wouldn't have known.
And the thing
and that's something that
this was 10 years ago, right?
Yeah. And it's worse now.
And it's worse now.
Yeah, it was 10 years on the 27th. Yeah.
It's
worse now. And I can't fathom, I can't fathom.
Your story is like, it's almost the exact same as our story. Like, all you have to do is change the names. Like when you said, like, well, Tomeka had HELP syndrome, so she wasn't awake to a lot of the stuff that was going on, but I was there and did the exact same thing. Nobody told me I could unswaddle him and like the same knit hat, and like that was when you said she was so beautiful, like that was the first thing I thought, like when I saw Jace, and I was just like, oh my God, like he's so beautiful. And it's not that it's just because it's your baby, because like I don't really,
they're all beautiful when you see them.
yeah.
I mean, and regardless of, I saw a post recently made by a birth worker saying that not all babies are born. not all pregnancies result in a baby. And I took that the wrong way because regardless of the outcome, and this is something that I've had to teach myself over the years, a baby is born. Every pregnancy outcome, whether it's there's a baby at some point, whether the baby is a take-home baby, as my then my now 14-year-old calls babies that they get to go home with you, or a butterfly baby, there's a baby.
Right.
That deserves to be loved, that deserves to be acknowledged. Who better, and this is something that I've had to teach myself over the years, to look out for me on the other side than a child of mine.
That's true.
You know that when your child is on the other side, they have your back. So nobody is going to be able to mess with you. And that's something that has taken me years to figure out. But she's why I do this work. And Quilt was never supposed to be an organization. It wasn't. It was supposed to be a one-time event, a one and done. And when you get a bunch of women together to do anything, no offense, sis, sometimes we women run our mouths too much. Sometimes we're in our heads too much. There's this cattiness. So I got tired of all the cattiness and said, you know what? I'll just do whatever I have to do. Let me just do this and call it a day.
We didn't have so much. We didn't have so much cattiness. We just. I know Tomeka knew that. Well, she kind of had a vision afterwards about starting Jason's journey because it was so traumatic, so stressful, and so it could have been avoided. It was very avoidable.
Right.
Yep. If she would have had urine tests, blood tests.
Yes.
If the doctors cared an ounce more than they cared, then Jace would be here. We wouldn't have Jace's journey, and it's
exactly
so many more things, better things could have came out of it if just the basics were done. So your mission kind of like lines up almost like parallel with ours. There's a couple differences, but for overall, it's pretty much the same message. So your mission is to provide bereavement support to families who suffered loss of a baby from conception to age 2. We're not that specific, but our mission is to empower the African American community, especially as it relates to maternal fetal medicine and just empowerment, education, showing people different options with doulas, trying to help them, set them up with knowledge so they can know what questions to ask, how to hold doctors accountable, nurses accountable, kind of be on the lookout for microaggressions. Just we're trying to do a lot because when you're going through all that from, what we've learned by talking to so many people is that you don't notice all of that because you're pretty much in the thick of it. So you're trying to get your bearings about pregnancy, trying to navigate, like, is this doctor on my side? Is this nurse on my side? And you're wanting to trust all of them. But now that we've seen so many facts and statistics and heard so many stories that you kind of have to approach it with the side eye, if you will. Like, does this doctor really have my best interest in mind? And do they really care? Are they really fighting for me? So we're trying to also advocate Tomeka more than now because my mom Congress and different boards and like really push the vision and the mission of Jason's journey.
And one of the important things that we wanted to do and we strive to do is that we, on a minimal, have the conversation. Right? Because I found it to be a conversation that within the African American community, when it comes to like stillbirth and infant loss, that we don't have that conversation.
Exactly.
And it was, people were really surprised that we even talked about it
Yeah.
From the beginning, because most of the time people kind of bottle it up and keep it as like a secret. Like everyone knows, and they just keep it as a secret. And I was like, that's
it's not healthy.
Not healthy.
I could do that. Like I knew from the very beginning, like I had to get it out because it was just so heavy. But you also can't talk to everybody about it because everybody
doesn't understand.
Yeah, they don't understand. They can't relate.
And they don't know what to say, and then they say something wrong, and then you're just like,
and like your ex mother-in-law, some people do try to place blame on you or the parents, like maybe y'all didn't drink enough water, or maybe you wasn't paying attention to your body, or whatever the case is. And luckily for us, we had really good family support and really good friend support. So we had a really supportive network to, kind of help keep us mentally stable. Yeah, and we started to understand it as we were going through it, but once we kind of somewhat got on the other side, we could really tell that, like, if it wasn't for our families, like there's no way I know I wouldn't have made it through, because it was just it's still.
And people don't have that support, right?
They don't. I didn't have that support. I remember, now my grandmother raised me, so I expected Nana to treat me the same way that she always treated me. Like I was her youngest, I was her baby. And I'll never forget, we hadn't even had Anaya's memorial service. It was during that transition week, the week between birth and planning. And she looked at me. I was sitting at the foot of the stairs, and she looked at me and she said, "You need to stop this. And listen to this. This is something that hit me." And also my aunt was standing right there. So it hit us both because my aunt didn't know this. I did not act this way when my son died. And my aunt, who's my grandmother's biological youngest, looked and she said, "What?" So automatically, before anything else happens, my aunt goes and grabs the phone and dials my mother and puts her on speaker. And she said, "Did you know we had a brother? You're not the oldest. We had a brother." Apparently, my grandmother had her firstborn died from what they called then crib death, but what we call SIDS.
Right.
And none of her children knew about it. She had, at that time, my mom believed she was the firstborn and oldest. And then there was my uncle, and then there was my aunt. And no one knew about this baby, Jeffrey, who was the firstborn. And it just sent us reeling. And it was at that moment that I realized, I immediately went to the photo albums and started looking and found Catherine, who was one of my grandmother's oldest sister's baby girl who died from SIDS. And then, my aunt, one of my aunt had a set of twins who died shortly after coming home. Both, one died and then the other. Wow. And so on and so forth. And then you follow the people the people who were the baby pictures to the adult photos where there's no adult photo, no childhood pictures, where there should be. And notice all of these babies that no one's talking about because it's unspoken. There's that proverbial rug that we all have, that everything that's deemed embarrassing is swept under. And also getting back to something else that you guys said. This isn't the only work that I do on this side of things, and this is what I advise all org leaders to do. I'm a commissioner on the Postpartum Depression Commission here in Massachusetts. I'm also a steering committee member of the Massachusetts COVID-19 Maternal Equity Coalition. I sit on boards, I sit on committees. We recently passed a bill that was supposed to have it. It was so perfectly written. They had written it for 2 years, writing in specifically for this commission that's coming up, the Maternal Mortality and Morbidity Bill. And it was aimed towards Black women, supporting Black women. And it passed the House without any problems. But the same day that Congressman Lewis was being funeralized, about a half hour before the Senate went to vote on this bill, we received an email saying they'd removed everything pertaining to Black. Every word Black was removed from the bill.
Did y'all hear that?
We were told that it was necessary. Now, mind you, it passed favorably from the House, through the House, with no issues with the word Black in it. And when it went to the state Senate, that's when they felt in order to get it to pass, they needed to remove Black. And of course, I was on another Zoom call when I got this text message, got the email to look at the text message to look at my email. I looked at the email and I automatically started crying. And they're thinking somebody in my family died, something happened. And I was on a Zoom and I'm sitting there and said, no, this bill passed, but they had to throw us under the bus as usual. We're still fighting. The commission, we even asked that the commission be 60% Black. And they took that out as well. We're still fighting for it. And of course, the non-Black members assumed that this was a win. They were cheering. And when we had our latest meeting, oops, I don't know what happened. I lost you guys. Can you see? I can't see you guys anymore. When this happened, it was crazy. Absolutely crazy. I lost you guys. I can't see you guys. Anyway, so all I can say is get involved with your state. Okay. All right. Get involved with your state legislators. If you don't know who your community reps are, get to know them. In order to change this, we all need to be involved in public policy work. We all need to be, okay, there you are. I'm like, oh my goodness, I touched something. And I'm still talking, of course. I told you I'm a talker.
That's perfect. Because our internet just kind of turned off and turned back on. So we were just like, what in the world? But yeah, perfect.
Your community reps, you should have them on your text message. I text my congressman, I text my community reps. If something is going on, I'm like, Houston, we have a problem. I was on an email chain, and this woman kept talking about, oh yeah, I talked to rep about this, I talked to rep about that. I'm like, really? So I pulled her up on my phone while she was saying all this during our email chain. Are you aware that this is going on? And she had no idea. She said, I never said that. I never did that. I wouldn't. I wouldn't do this. There was this white woman saying all this about a woman of color who's a state rep. I don't play that. I know who I need to be involved with. I know who I should be voting for, because these are the people who respond to, who I can text any time of day and say, this is the issue. I went to the State of the Union this year as my Congresswoman Ayanna Presley's guest.
Wow.
Which was wow. Granted, I don't like 45, but it wasn't about 45. It was about this work. I wore Riley Rice's earrings. Riley Rice was stillborn a year ago in July. And her mom is the cousin of Tamir Rice. And it meant a lot to take her with me to the State of the Union. I wish I could have taken us all. I mean, if I could have, I'm going to find a way to start going into these meetings where, with something that represents every baby. I don't know how, and every mother.
We'll send you a t-shirt for Jace.
Well, that's just one baby and one mom. I mean, I have to figure out a way to carry everybody, and I met so many people, and it was a wonderful opportunity.
You need a bigger back for that.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly. I need a bigger everything for that.
So since your organization is Quilt, have you ever thought about making a quilt with all of those names on there?
We have quilts. And I'm going to talk to you guys after this about taking the North Carolina squares and turning it into an Afghan. Sending you guys all the baby squares that I have for North Carolina. And you guys just, each square represents a baby that was born in your state. We did that initially, collected squares and my poor house, my dining room for a while was quilt headquarters.
Oh wow!
And and I had
maybe once we get our proficient at Zoom, we can do like a scrolling graphic or something with their names and birthdates or something.
Yes.
Let everybody know about that.
They have to go. These little angel babies. I don't know whether that's what's been messing up with stuff, because spirits have a way of creating energy. So I've been told.
The light figure.
Exactly. See, little people. Someone once told me at the very beginning of my journey that they act the same way on the other side that they would be acting here. So, and you're still their mom. And that's what she told me. And I said, really? Okay, good. All right. So, but it's hard, it's hard. And I have to remind people, yes, I'm doing this work, but I'm still a grieving mom.
Right. Yeah.
So, and then on the other side, I just want to make you guys aware of Tamoria McQueen Saber, who's suing ACOG right now for being racist towards her.
Wow.
Yes, so that's huge.
Well, I hope she wins.
Me too.
So as a international bereavement specialist, how do you counsel or guide families or mothers or families through the infant loss process? Like what is that process like for you?
Well, people have a way of finding me, either via email, recommendation from other doulas who haven't trained or aren't comfortable with the process. I'm connected with the family. If they're local, I go into their home and we sit down and we talk about the process. For example, 3 years ago, was it 3? Yeah, 4 years ago, a family's baby had been died from SIDS. And I arrived just as they were taking the baby out of the home to the hospital. And mom and grandmom went to the hospital, but I stayed in the home and waited for them to return. And then we talked. We talked about what was going to happen, what they needed to do while, the hospital did their processes, making plans. And then we talked about what services they needed. We talked about therapists.
Yeah.
Talked about choosing a mortuary. We talked about things that you never expect to talk about as a parent, things that you never expect to think about. And this was a young mom. She was 16.
Oh, my.
So, yeah. So, of course, you automatically blame yourself because that's just what you do.
That is what you do.
I think the hardest part of my work is telling the family that they didn't do anything wrong and getting them to believe me.
Right.
You know, sadly, this happens. It's nothing that you've done. It does happen a lot. And if anything, like in our instances, if you want to blame somebody, it took me about 5 years to realize that the only people that were to blame for Naya's death were the medical people that were working with me. Yep. Especially realizing that I started spilling protein towards the middle portion of my second trimester. And from the second trimester until I delivered, they marked it as an unclean catch, when that's a sign of preeclampsia.
Right.
Our kidneys do not spill protein. So if your kidneys are fine and functioning properly, you do not spill protein. And realize
they never checked at all. We would have I said in my situation, they never checked at all. So we would have no idea whether I spilled protein or not.
No, your urinalysis, the pregnancy urinalysis, they didn't check any, they didn't do the dip.
They only did one urinalysis, which was to confirm the pregnancy. And that was in the first trimester.
November.
Yeah.
You didn't turn in urine every time you went?
Nope.
And no one told you had to?
Nope. Yep. We get that same look from everybody. that exact same look we get from everybody.
I've been pregnant 4 times. Okay. And one thing that I automatically do, I learned after my very first pregnancy, first thing you do is drink tons of water and then go into exactly what?
Yeah.
And you all, did you sue?
Well,
that's in the process.
That's another story. But
I'm sitting here and I'm like, wait, what?
Well,
urinalysis.
Well, I don't know. That's another.
We'll talk afterwards.
But long story short is that the legal side is in bed with the medical side. So the legal side is not they're gonna do the bare minimum to kind of.
Oh no. We'll talk after this.
Yeah,
we'll definitely talk after this. There's no
Yeah.
That is the first thing you do.
I swear they
did. Yeah, we are still able to have children. My little one burst in here. That was my only planned pregnancy because I knew birth could be beautiful. And that's why I became a doula, to learn more about the female reproductive system and to help save babies. Help save and without and save mothers. Now I'm sort of realizing that it's 2 halves of the same coin.
It is.
One thing that I do as a doula, and I have my rules, I turn down people on a regular basis because birth still triggers me. Yes, billboard. One thing that I do is I've partnered with 2 Black OBs and 1 Black midwife. If you're not willing to hire one of these for your birth, you cannot have me as a doula. I speak about finding, before you even get pregnant, interview your birth team. Yeah. I had an ironclad. I mean, that was my birth plan for my last one was the most beautiful piece of work I have ever created. Okay. And that negotiation was better than any legal negotiation. Because it took us, we were going back and forth and there were things that she wouldn't, because I didn't want to be checked and I didn't want this and I didn't want that. And I knew that I could not carry the 39 weeks again because I was afraid of the same situation. But this time I checked my own urine. I had my multi-sticks and I was dipping my first urine every day to make sure my kidneys were functioning properly. And this is something that I do with my lost families, especially if they had HELLP syndrome or any kind of hypertensive disorder during prior pregnancies. We have to be proactive instead of being reactive. We can't here anymore. And we have to demand what's right for us. And that's why, getting in touch with our politicians and choosing our politicians. We need to see more people that look like us in legislations.
Yeah.
And if that means grooming our youngsters to be these politicians that we need, then that's what we have to do. And realizing that not everybody is for us. And it's okay. It's
Right.
perfectly all right. But you know what? You don't need my money. Not that I have any. And you don't need my vote. If I can't communicate with you one-on-one, you definitely do not need my vote. I want grandchildren.
Right.
But my 14-year-old said, okay, well, you have a certain number of years to change this because I'm not going to die during childbirth.
And that's
sad. Yeah.
It's sad.
It is sad. It is sad. My son, like I said before, he's 20. His generation is saying they're not having children until we shift this paradigm, because it's hard enough being Black. You see that everything's and everybody's against you.
Right.
You go in for something that is just a normal process.
A normal process that people are paid to do.
Right. And they don't do their job.
They don't do their job. And you're supposed to know, which this is what bothers me the most. You're supposed to know more than they do about the job they do.
Yeah.
And that's a lot to ask for somebody, especially like a mother. You have 4 children that has 3 kids. Like she has enough going on to try to do your job too.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane.
And see, that's it. But you have to be knowledgeable. And women have to understand you have a uterus. You don't carry your baby in your stomach.
Right.
Okay? You have to protect your uterus, because that is something that they're trying to take away from us. You have fibroids, have a hysterectomy.
Yep.
You have cysts, get rid of those ovaries.
Yep.
They are trying, and I hate to be one of those people with the naysayers, but all those things that crazy old Black person down the street, everybody has one in their community. So you know who I'm talking about. Used to talk about and nobody listened to. It plays back in your head. We don't know who they are, but they are always trying to get you. Yeah. You know that person. Don't lie and say you don't. Everybody has one. It might be in your family or a neighbor, but everybody has that person. And it's true. When you look at the statistics, why are women in their 20s dying from a natural process?
Why? Exactly. Why?
Why are healthy babies dying? The only person who would talk to me after I lost Anaya was the head of department, who was a Black OB, who ended up being my OB with my rainbow. And she said, you know what, this shouldn't have happened. She was healthy. Black babies are healthy. They're the strongest babies. If you ever get pregnant again, come see me. And of course, I didn't listen. When I got pregnant with my youngest, I decided I didn't even want to go to that hospital. And I went to another hospital. But I ended up back with her because they kept calling me old. I was 40 when I got pregnant. I had Lee at 41. And it was just so stressful until I transferred over to this woman and we negotiated.
Right.
That was the craziest pregnancy, but the best one ever. I told her I didn't want to see any other doctors. If she couldn't see me that day, she called me, not her secretary or her PA. She called me herself. I can't see you today due to an emergency, but I'll put you in time. Okay, so you want to deliver at 37 weeks? Well, we do our inductions on a Friday, so that'll be 37.1, And of course, I didn't want to give birth on September 11th, so I chose September 12th.
Right.
Which was the Friday.
Right.
And like I said to you before this started, I never expected her to walk in and catch my baby.
Right.
But she did, because she said, you told me you didn't want to see any other doctors. And I was wondering why a doctor hadn't come in to check me. during that entire process.
Mm-hmm.
She came in, she checked me around 5-something p.m. and she said, you know what? It's time. It looks like a beautiful day to have a baby. Let's get ready to push. And that was that. You know, she saw me, she came and she discharged me from the hospital, you know, a couple of days later. And she saw me, you know, even though she's moved to a practice in New York, we're still in touch. I sent her pictures, you know, and I still send her clients because I know she's going to do what's in our best interest.
Right.
And she trained her replacement.
Okay.
Who's one of the OBs that I refer to. If you're working in maternal medicine, you definitely, if you're a doula, if you're a birthing person, look in your community for these allies.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't find one in your community, it's time, before you get pregnant, you need to go to another community because that's the only guarantee that you will survive this genocide.
Mm.
It's a sad reality. That's what it is, genocide.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. Like our stories are, like I said, almost the exact same, and like we're fighting the same for the same fight, and
Mm-hmm.
at times it can be tiring because she's on the phone with them and emailing them and calling them and like trying to like make sure laws get changed. We're sponsoring doulas and like giving the doulas programs, and it's almost like a drop in the ocean because there's so much work.
He said a drop in the ocean. You mean the desert? At least in the ocean, you get hydrated.
Well, I say ocean because there's a lot of other agencies like ours, like yours, like My Darling Doula.
Yes.
Who did we speak to last week? What was that?
Talitha.
Love and Faith Doula. So there's a lot of organizations around us like fighting the same fight, and it's like you said, we're with the quilt. We're all trying to get quilted together so we can really push this narrative and educate, change, and just help people be more aware. And what I think also with us is what's gonna help kind of push it further is when white people start picking up the agenda with us, because like we're not in those positions of power yet. So when we can have an advocate who is white on the other side, then white people tend to listen to white people more. So we start getting those allies to align with us, then we can start getting some momentum and picking up steam. But we are on the right path, which is evident by all the love and support that we get from everybody. Because sometimes it seems like you're fighting by yourself, and it's like,
exactly,
is this really the right fight? And like, are people listening or people paying attention? But people are listening, watching today, because I think today we've had the most views, viewers that we've had in a while. So people are watching, people are paying attention, and people are asking questions. And I know another thing that we wanted to normalize is us talking about it, because I know when we first started it, a lot of people would look at me strange because I'm a male in I wouldn't say female dominated, but female. You guys are the kind of the main focus, and infants are. So, not saying that fathers should take a back seat, but not enough fathers do talk about it and help.
Exactly.
So we also wanted to make sure that the male voice was heard, and like the fathers kind of help push the vision too. So it's gonna take a team effort, which is what we realized really early on, because in the hospital I realized I wanted to make sure I was as well as I could be mentally, so I could help with her. Although sometimes I do fall apart because it's so, like, to me always says like our stories are different, but they're the same because
they are.
because she was so what's the word I'm looking for? She was so out of it. Like she missed, there was like 2 or 3 days where she didn't she missed some stuff. But she came after the climax. So I got to see a lot of that stuff firsthand, and like everything you said, I pretty much lived through. Like I couldn't plan his memorial service. I just couldn't. Like I was not in a mental space to be able to do that because she was still in critical care, and luckily, well, fortunately for us, our mothers were there to kind of help with the planning of that and kind of help leading the charge in that because we just couldn't do it. Like, it was hard enough
Right.
with him in the room and them like rushing him out. So it was just
And when you talk about like seeing her feet and her hands in pictures,
Mm-hmm.
the only time I ever saw his hands or his feet. It was,
And that's it with me. I mean, I didn't see her hair until it was in a photo. I was afraid to
You okay?
I'm fine, Bradley. Sorry. Thank you. She said we needed some light.
good for her.
Yes. And this is my rainbow who said that, her hair was done when I came in here. She's my wild child. Okay, that's fine. She said the thing fell out of her hair. Anyway, I mean, it's imperative when you're doing this work. Thank you, Bradley. Oh, wow. Okay. When you're doing this work, to have the resources to share with others as they need them. You partner with certain funeral parlors. You go to certain places. I found myself even online buying dresses for the babies to be buried in, gowns and and things because like sometimes you see them.
I can do that.
I know
I don't know if I can do
so.
that just yet.
But
Well, there are always no one's ever prepared. And I remember my auntie going out buying a white dress and because she was small, she was 6 pounds, 4 ounces. And my auntie went out and she bought, a little white dress and a sweater with hat and booties and all of that for her to be buried, to be cremated in. And to this day, she says she wishes she had a little doll. She could have put a little doll because she makes it a point to get my kids their first dolls. Even the boy, she bought him a doll as his first doll. But that was one of her regrets, and that's something that no parent ever has to think about. I go to if I go to a thrift store, and I'll stop in a thrift store just for the purpose of seeing if they have diapers. Because the one thing I never want any other parent to need to do is buy a whole pack of diapers to give them a mortuary one.
Right.
So I buy them and take them directly to any mortuary, just so they don't have to go through that, that process.
Right.
Things that we think of as, or others might think of as little.
Yeah.
I remember having, saying to the woman, I'm not going out to buy a whole pack of diapers just for one. Why don't you get one from the hospital?
I never even thought about it. Like I never, because that whole process was outside of me. You know what I'm saying? It was like, so I never even, until you said that about diapers, like I never would have thought that they needed a diaper.
Right. And they do. They bury, adults and children the same way with full everything on. The same way that you would dress a baby.
Yeah, I didn't even realize.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, the diaper and everything. And what's funny was the woman, and everything happens as it should. Right, Zay. I know for Anaya, I'd had my my work baby shower. Because I don't, after you have more than one kid,
you don't need another.
mine are You don't have another baby shower. You don't need to have, but see, mine were so spaced.
People.
Exactly. So my job decided to give me, I told them not to give me a baby shower, but they decided they had to give me a baby shower. And I remembered at home, because like when we had everything, but she didn't have any tights. And I remember someone gave me these cute little tights, in my baby shower, newborn tights. So of course I came back home, got those, and took them to the mortuary. But the person that took care of my daughter was a lost mom. She had a stillborn baby years earlier. So she took care of everything, even with because I couldn't function. I wouldn't go downstairs to their business office because I knew that's where they kept the bodies. So I refused to go downstairs. So we're sitting upstairs on a couch, and I'm sitting there sobbing. And she's like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Just sign here. And when I said, well, okay, how much is this going to cost? She said, I told you not to worry about it. Just sign here. And she got a grant to pay for Anaya's cremation and everything.
Wow.
But just knowing that people will go that extra mile for you. And that's what drives me to do the work, because everyone coming after us, they're in the same shock phase that we were, that deer in headlights phase. What do I do now? What are we supposed to do? How do I move forward? And that's why I moved from just supporting people to teaching people. Because yes, there are a lot, and I never did answer your question. I'm going back to it. I'm sorry about supporting people on an international basis. If they're physically with me, I can go to their home or meet them wherever they decide, or go to the hospital, whatever they choose, show them that they have choices. And if I'm at the hospital, the first thing that I do is take that clock off of the wall, because I remember the ticking of the clock. I remember watching the clock. I remember timing things. And that causes triggers, because I can't be in a room with a clock now because of that clock without flashing back to certain points of that birth. There are just certain things that you think of when you're working with families. And in order for me to properly support a family, I have to be able to function. So if I'm at the home with them, we talk about everything. It's good to let people know that they don't have to get rid of things, because I don't know about you guys, but in-laws can be outlaws at times when they make decisions for you. One of my biggest fears was that I was going to get home and the baby stuff was going to be cleared out. I did not want anybody touching her stuff. I did not want anyone making that decision but me.
Right.
And luckily, one of my nephews and his wife were about to have a baby. So a lot of her things went to my grandniece.
Yeah, it took us a while. It took us a while. His room was literally his room until probably before we moved. So we moved last year. So exactly the way it was.
I couldn't.
Yeah, it was.
We still couldn't.
Yeah,
we had some help. Like her friends came by and they packed up the room and like just was they did a lot of stuff because we never really went in there, and I just couldn't.
And then some of them couldn't. It took them a while to be able to do it too, because we talk about this a lot. It's not just about us, right?
Right.
Our whole family and all of our friends that were all waiting for a different story. And
right.
it took everybody a little while. Like it just it just wasn't something that we could do. I'm telling you, his room stayed the same for a year. Right. And it was only because we moved. It was only because we moved, because if we hadn't moved, it would be the same way, I'm sure.
And like you said, like you didn't want to share your birthday with with Anaya, and like May is
my birthday.
Yeah, May. So May was her birthday, and then we lost him on May 15th, 14th.
Mm-hmm.
And so her birthday, his birthday, Mother's Day, it's just like the month of May is
it's
just
like really hard.
Yeah,
it's really
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
It's like,
because my baby shower was also in May.
Mm-hmm.
Around my birthday, because my birthday, so my baby shower was in May. He was born in May. I'm born in May. Mother's Day is in May.
yeah. And
It's just like,
when we lost him, it was the day after Mother's Day, because we had just went up to see my mother, hang out with her, and took some pictures, and it was a good time. And then that night, it was like the wheels came off. It's like she thought she had food poisoning, and
Yeah. HELP syndrome is one of the worst. I know a lot of women, Black women especially, who have suffered losses due to HELP syndrome. And they could have lost their lives as well.
Yeah, and what the severity of her case, although HELP syndrome only happens in maybe like 0.2 or 0.5 or whatever, it's so rare. But like all the people that from the case studies that I've read that had it as severe as she had, all died within 24 hours. So I just remember all the doctors and nurses saying, it's a miracle she's still alive, and like we can't believe she's still alive, because it was like they gave her 25 liters of blood, like during that was just in one surgery. So it was. I remember the doctor coming in saying like we thrown everything, including the kitchen sink, at her, and we could not get her to stop bleeding. And the look of terror on his face was like I couldn't even finish talking to him. I'm like, you supposed to be the doctor, like you the expert, and your poker face is horrible. Like, look, I'm supposed to have faith that you can save her life if you coming in here with the puppy dog eyes defeated. And whatnot. So I'm like, oh damn, man, like it's bad, man. I gotta go. So I got to walk down and he finished telling everybody, but as God would have it, she's still here. So so she came out of it. But when we was all going through it, it was touch and go.
Oh yeah.
And the saying that he kept saying, or that they all kept saying, which I really don't like now, is we're not out of the woods yet. Like I must have heard that like 20 times, and I still don't like that saying. So it was like our stories are so like it's just uncanny how similar they are, but our fights are the same, our stories are the same. So
and see, that's why we all, like you said, need to form that quilt of support, because I'm here for everybody.
Right.
I want you to succeed. I want all of us to succeed. I want our babies to be born alive and healthy. I can't fathom. I mean, just to let you know, my oldest daughter was born with a congenital heart defect. And she had open heart surgery when she was 2 weeks old.
Wow.
She had a hemitruncus, pulmonary hypertension, and a prolapsed valve.
Wow.
Yeah. Now she will be turning 15 next Saturday. The one thing I was told was that these babies die. I was told she'd never know my name. I was told she'd probably never know her name. I was told not to expect anything from her in life. Now at 14, she's on the honor roll at Boston Latin Academy, which is one of the hardest exam schools in Massachusetts. I was told never to let her take the exam school test, which she passed with flying colors. She had every kind of service under the book, in school, in elementary school. Got accepted to go into advanced studies in the 6th grade. And I was told not to let her take that test either. But now going into the 10th grade, she has a 4 point whatever GPA and is looking at colleges, and colleges are looking at her. And this is a child, when we went back for her 13-year checkup, and I'm saying all this for a reason. She was, told that her cardiologist has been with us since day one. And she said, if I did not know her story, and she said this while crying, I wouldn't believe that she ever had a cardiac condition. Her heart's healthier than one that was born healthy.
Wow.
And she's being discharged from cardiology if everything goes as planned. She doesn't have to go back until she turns 18. And then if everything is still the same, she'll be discharged for life. This is a child who should have had multiple surgeries, only had the one. Most children who've had this surgery are not here.
Mm.
So I've seen how babies who should die or who are critically ill can be made well firsthand. So I've also seen where healthy babies have passed away. I wouldn't trade, for the world. I've seen both sides.
Right.
So knowing what's going on, it's time to get these healthy babies to survive, to protect our women. We don't know what God has for us.
We don't.
We don't know why the whys in all of this. I know a friend of mine speculated, that sometimes we have to be the vessel of change.
Mm.
Sometimes not every little person comes to us. They come through us to wake us up if we're not on the path that we're supposed to be on. And I know that we wish that Jason and I were here with us, because I would love, although I think my household would be hectic right now with 3 girls, all that female energy. I would love to have my 10-year-old, be singing happy birthday to my 10-year-old, right along with my 20-year-old and my soon-to-be 15-year-old. But I can imagine the glory that's going on the other side because she's not here. And how she cheers us on along with Jace cheering us on in the work that we're doing. We have to keep speaking out. We have to keep doing this work because there are so many mothers and babies who need us. And I know it hurts because there isn't a day that goes by that I don't wonder about her, who she'd be, which of my girls she would be most like. It would be a 2-way fight because I don't know if Lee would be here. I probably would have stopped after a night. But just that whole freaking frat type of situation,
And
I'm grateful.
yeah, I've had those exact same thoughts, and I know other people have had those same thoughts, because it's like you'll be doing something, and like something totally random, you'll just be like, I wonder what kind of person Jace would be. Like, I wonder, like, would he be playing? Would he be throwing something, or like
Uh-huh.
what type of man he would grow up to be, and what type of husband or father or whatever he would be. You just kind of, and I think that's that is part of what makes it hard, because you're like, it's all the what ifs and what they would grow up to be, but
Mm-hmm.
also you gotta take away the positive, like it's helping us to be who we are today and make us the persons that we want to be, or that we need to be to help other people. And one thing, like, I would tell people, like, listen, don't don't tell somebody all of this stuff, as soon as it happens, like, oh, God has a purpose and God has a plan. Like,
Exactly.
hey, man, I don't want to hear that stuff right now. Like,
I was told God was punishing me.
Oh.
Somebody told me that God was punishing me through my children.
Oh my.
Yeah, well, I would have had to fight over that.
No, but there are certain things. If you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything.
Yeah, and that's part of that. The blame culture and kind of trying to force you to suppress it so you don't bring it up again. But that's just part of the unhealthy, toxic relationships. And for us, we, like I said, we wanted to normalize talking about it and kind of healing through talking, because you never know, if you're talking to somebody, they might give you some pointers or ideas that could help you
move forward
and
say they would have screamed.
Help you navigate through those troubled waters, because it's so uncommon that you need help and you need guidance through that. And another thing we talked about was the mental health aspect of it, normalizing talking to counselors and therapists and all of that, because they're
the right ones.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Not every therapist is prepared for this conversation.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah, and you have to make sure you're speaking. It took me a while to find my therapist.
And go ahead.
And she was, of course, a woman of color. The first person I went to, I showed her a picture of Anaya, and she said to me, "Are you sure she was dead in this picture?" So, of course, I got up and left. That was it.
Are you serious?
Yes. Yes, she looked like a sleeping baby, she told me.
I mean,
so I just got up and left.
No.
And that was that. And
yeah, no, absolutely not. Goodbye.
Oh yeah, it was time.
And we got extremely lucky, blessed. Our therapist, counselor, she was perfect. She was not a woman of color, but she was very she was young too.
She's very young, but
that's where you lucked out.
Yeah, she's young, but I think our story in itself kind of shook her a little. You know what I'm saying? Like she was kind of like, wait, what?
Yeah, she was also very intuitive about our about how she handled us. I don't want to say handle, but how she basically took care of us, because she was real. She kind of let the conversations and the therapy flow the way it needed to. She wasn't like forceful and like, you guys need to do this. It was always kind of suggestive, and she just went with the flow. And like, if something was bothering us this week, then she let us get it out, or let me get it out. And if something was happy or whatever, try to, build on that. So like you said, finding the right therapist or counselor
it's like finding anything. Like it's the same process.
Yep.
Right. I mean, and see, that's why I've vetted so many people in it.
It's an interview for everything. Like you
it is
the right to interview for everything that you are paying a service for.
Yep. And just like
and emphasize that paying. See, that's something that we don't pay attention to. When we go to see a doctor, they get paid.
Mm-hmm.
We're not physically handing them money, but we are paying them. We're paying for a service so that they can get paid. And that's something that we don't realize.
Yep.
So if we're not happy with their service, we have the right to report them and leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and no one's telling us that. Like, no one is like emphasizing that. So I think that's where we come in and try to emphasize that with the empowerment side of it. It's like, look, you
and
have
advocating
a voice
for yourself.
It's your body, it's your mind, it's your baby.
Yes.
That is yours. So you have every right to be as demanding or less lenient as you see fit, because it's a matter of life and death.
It really is.
Yeah. And so you you need to exercise that power because at the end of the day, it could be your own life that you're saving. So,
If not your life, it could be your child's life that you're saving.
and you never know. And you speaking up could also alter how that doctor practices medicine because
That's right.
it could, change their life hopefully for the better so they can hopefully realize the level of care that they may or may not be given and kind of, force them to perspective with how they, practice medicine moving forward. So it's we have a long road ahead. We've come a long way. We
Yes.
do have a ways to go. We thank you for
This was good. This was
spending
good.
this Saturday
Like,
morning.
I'm here. I'm here.
And I know a lot of people saw me crying and stuff because
it's a trigger. Like,
yeah. So
Yeah, it is.
because everything you said, like literally everything you said, I could see me going through that and me kind of reliving all of that stuff like that. Everything you said, I just went back to the hospital and I saw all of that stuff. So it's basically like, I just did it all over again. And by far the hardest thing I ever had to go through because, we
It
lost,
really, yeah.
and I almost lost her too. So it was kind of like a double whammy. And it was for such a prolonged period of time. It was.
It was 45 days in the hospital.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
It was real bad.
It was a long time.
But you're a survivor. And like I said, it's two halves of the same coin.
And like your daughter, people are really surprised that I don't have a heart condition because I have HELLP syndrome. And and I look at like a lot of, we're in a lot of groups. I'm in a lot of groups, for HELLP survivors, and some of the autoimmune things that a lot of women are going through right now from having HELLP. I don't have any of that. So God is good.
Let me tell you something. I developed parathyroid disease. I have hyperparathyroidism.
What's
and it's how your thyroid is tested on a regular basis. There's a parathyroid gland. There are 4 of them that are behind the thyroids. They only get tested when they can't figure out what's wrong with you. I'm 46, going on 47 in 2 weeks. And I had a hip replacement 2 years ago.
Wow.
My knees are bad. I have arthritis everywhere. I'm in the middle of a you see my hair. My hair was coming out, so I sat down, had my son just zip. Hey, I was bald in 3 spots anyway. I'm not one for a comb over, so I just had him to do it, and then I cried. And I ordered 3 wigs that I'll probably never wear. But it's an autoimmune disease.
Yep.
That developed and this is why I tell people the whole maternal mortality crisis, the whole maternal morbidity side of things. People can be walking around with issues. I was just diagnosed last year.
Right.
But I've had different hip surgeries. Thank you, my cousin Cassie. Yeah, she's a doula in North Carolina.
Is she?
Yes, she is. So you need to connect with her. Village Sis.
And motivate me.
Yes. But all the symptoms that I've been having since I had Anaya were alluding to this disorder, and no one tested me until last year. They speculate that what exacerbated the problem was my having the youngest, my rainbow.
Right.
Yeah. And I started, love you too, cuz. I started having issues because, I gained the weight, and the weight is all, I've never been this big in my life. And it's all a part of that whole hyperparathyroid problem. So now I have an endocrinologist, I have a rheumatologist, I see a nephrologist. I get back to being treated as of Monday. When I'm in the middle of a flare up, everything hurts. I take medication for chronic pain, but does it slow me down? Of course not, because I have a lot of work to do.
Right.
We have a lot of work to do. We need allies. We need people to get out of our way so that we can do our work.
Right. If you're not,
we have mothers and babies to save.
Exactly. Absolutely. So we thank you so much. This has been so good.
Yep.
We
appreciate so much
anytime
you coming on our little show here.
Oh, please. This has been fun. I'm always here to do this work, to talk about the work. We're going to get you guys in advocacy. We're going to get you guys in some commissions so that you can, you can use your voice. You can be that person in the North Carolina state. Like I'm that person here in Massachusetts, along with my sister, Tomoria McQueen Saba. And I'm going to introduce you to Tomoria, because, like I said, she's suing ACOG. Now, what makes that monumental, and I know you guys have to go, is that everything female reproductive
goes through ACOG.
Thank you.
I know.
Thank you.
And it's
so she is suing them because of racism.
Oh.
So when she wins, that speaks volumes for all of us.
Amen.
If they wanted to see this over, it would be over.
That's true. That is so true.
Very.
That's true.
And speaking of doing more things in the community, we have a 5K that we host. We hosted last year. We are hosting again this year. October 24th is a 5K/fun run. Yep. So the kids and adult kids can wear costumes to the 5K, and I think we're giving out a prize for best costume or something like that. So you can bring your dog, your cat, your monkey if you got one, a goat. I don't think we have enough room for cows, but I mean, if it's a baby cow,
I think I'm scared of monkeys. So let's not do that.
Yeah. So, so tell your friends, your family, your cousins. You can come down from Maryland and run in the 5K and then go right back up. Hopefully, restrictions won't be as bad. We'll probably be passing out masks and hand sanitizer. But
I can't leave Massachusetts. If I leave, I have to stay with you guys.
Hey,
we got plenty of room.
They don't let us leave Massachusetts to go farther than New York.
Well, you can come stay with us.
We got a.
If I come, I have to bring the 5-year-old.
I'm okay with that.
We can.
You wouldn't be. She likes to talk.
Don't all 5-year-olds like to talk though? Like,
oh no! Add my gene onto it.
Oh,
I think she's 15.
Oh, okay.
Okay, y'all.
Bring her anyway.
Yeah.
We'll find something for her to do.
Yep. So we posted the link to sign up for the 5K fun run in the chat. You can also go to our Facebook page, our Instagram page, both of our pages, your page, her page, and everybody's page.
We also are co-sponsoring a community baby shower on August 29th. At Centrifuge Church in Harrisburg. I posted it before, but I'll repost it so you guys can see it. There's a link for anybody who needs anything to register for what they need. I think we're giving away a crib. There'll be food. It's a drive up, leave. You know, we still in the middle of a pandemic, so
yeah.
So you can drive up and pick up your stuff and leave. And I think what we're going to try to do is also be able to register for the race if you want to. So if you choose to register for the race, you can sign up for the race during the baby shower too. So good things coming. We appreciate you.
Oh, and they can go to your website, which is www.nnaya.org. ANNAYA.org. Oh, hold on. I'm going to type it in the comments so as to not get it wrong. Nnaya.org. and they can learn more about you, your services, how you
Yes,
do all
yes.
in the comments. We'll probably post it on our webpage.
You guys are awesome.
Yeah.
We will be working together.
Yes,
Um,
please.
yes, because it takes a village to raise a child. Apparently, it takes us to bring them into the world.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got to get back to that village for sure.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
So thank you. Have a good weekend. Get some rest. I know you're
Bye,
always.
guys.
We appreciate you.
Take care.
You too.